तो सर इसमें can we delve deeper into the framework of what all you evaluate before let's say investing anywhere? So क्या क्या factors होते हैं? With if you can give an example and explain, that'll be amazing. कि numbers क्या देखते हो, management quality क्या देखते हो, how do you assess if it's a good company, good like investment, and what all happens through the framework?
So Kushal, I'll give it to you with the company I currently work in, because that's the framework that we really use. So we have a framework called GCMB, which is growth, cash flow, management, and valuation. These are the 4 parameters. And if you ask me, across the many companies I've worked in, mota moti investing in equity kind of, I would believe, looks at these 4 parameters. Nomenclatures may be different, right? So you are going to want to, when you are analyzing a company, you want to understand or develop some understanding कि ये company का growth prospects क्या है. Because ultimately, if I'm paying a price earning multiple for something, I am a big believer in the PEG ratio. मतलब अगर मैं, if I'm paying a PE of 30, I can't be paying a PE of 30 for a company growing at 5%. Right? So there has to be growth that is embedded in the business model or the direction of the business. The second, which is very critical, is the management. And some people use the word governance, some people quality sochte, but I'm just saying combination of vision and execution. What is the management thinking about? And somebody may say that this is now, I'm giving a very institutional answer. But not really, because today there are websites where any normal person, if they want, can read con call transcripts, right? Quarterly con call transcripts, and what management is thinking about their business. Over time, you can form an opinion in terms of how those managements are in terms of vision, execution, skill, etc. So, second part. Third is cash flow, because we believe that eventually that's the truth serum. Right, P&Ls are there on the it's there on an Excel sheet, but hard cash in the bank reflects a lot more. And fourth is valuation. It's always a good thing to be mindful about valuation, because that could make or break how much you make from this. So those are the 4 parameters. I don't think those majorly different hai from most investment people. Where we are slightly different, and we believe we kind of think about it, is we use a 5th element, which is kind of a common word called catalyst. Like, what are the catalysts that are going to come in which may change any of these parameters for the better, most particularly the business? Is it a government policy? Is it a macro opportunity? शायद चाइना का import policies change हो गया, maybe it's some other government. It's typically a macro catalyst that perhaps, there can be a policy around recycling that will spell certain opportunities for certain companies. It will not. So there is always a catalyst you may want to look at that allows you to have confidence that this company's prospects will change. And what is important is we also look at it both sides. So I'm not saying कि हम सिर्फ positive तरह से सोचते हैं. Sometimes there can be a catalyst on the negative as well. Right? I will give you an example. As you know, in our industry, we can't specifically talk about stocks, right? But I think this is about 2 years ago, government announced windfall tax. Now that's what I would describe as a catalyst, right? Because you are, for example, if you've been buying metal stocks, आपको लगता है कि the way metal prices are globally, etc., ये opportunity है for companies to earn disproportionate profits. But the moment you have a catalyst called windfall tax, why I'm saying it's a catalyst? Because windfall tax is a financial number. You can do the ganit. Tax इतना है, तो अगर आपके हिसाब से profit was going to grow from 10 to 20, that profit is now going to grow from 10 to 16. But to me, the catalyst is that given the importance of this space, the government is going to control the extent to some degree to which profits can be made, because there are certain elements of its importance to the broader economy, etc. So me, that's a catalyst to say that this is not a one-way story. There is a limitation, and perhaps therefore being overly optimistic on this may not make sense.
What is a windfall tax?
So windfall tax is when basically the government announced an extra tax on top of which I think got changed only about 6 months ago, that you have to pay an extra tax because of the sheer opportunity that was there. And that windfall tax helped the government, I would say, mitigate to some degree the oil prices and so on and so forth.
So if
So
we can just,
that was the term that that this was called a windfall tax, because there is a windfall gain, more than expected gain. So therefore you pay a slightly higher level of tax, and so to that extent you kind of believe that this is an indicator that perhaps this is not a one-way street.
So if you can just delve deeper into the GCMV framework, and although I know you can't take individual stock names, but GCMV framework में like with an example, I got all the 4 points, but with an example आप बता सकते हो कि okay growth है तो this should be the percentage, cash flow है तो okay these are the ratios we check, maybe operating cash flow to profit or EV, like EV to operating cash flow, etc. थोड़ा deep में in terms of what are like the specific nuances you look for in every factor.
Let me give you an example. One of the spaces that we have been, we saw, I think we were one of the earlier guys. We did simple math and said that if you think about what we are discussing in terms of our economy, this was 2-3 years back, $3 trillion economy. Most likely in 5-7 years we'll become a $6-7 trillion economy. India will be the third largest economy in the world, etc., etc. I remember my investment team doing some back calculation and saying, okay, for this to happen, and obviously there was a lot of impetus on manufacturing, make in India, etc., etc. They came to the conclusion by 27 or 28, we would probably not be making enough power for us to actually be able to run to this $6-7 trillion. Which then means कि power sector, जो typically is seen as a defensive structure, it's a value play, it kind of is ticking the box on the most obvious growth. Because if anything I can create more capacity is going to have demand, then that's the biggest example of a growth stock, right? So effectively, I remember a particular company we looked at to say that therefore, whatever incremental productivity gains this company can have assures it a very predictable growth over the next 5-10 years. That number was not 20%, because obviously power companies cannot expand at 20% every year, right? So maybe it is that a company then growing at 9-10% versus historically a company that grew at 3-5%. Right. So the way we look at growth is more relative rather than absolute. That's point number one.
Okay.
Now, once we've thought about that, so like I said, two perspectives, neither of them financial. One is there an opportunity to grow faster than what is expected of such a company or such a sector? And is there an opportunity to grow faster for longer? Because longer and the third element, if I was to do it, is what extent of confidence I will have around this, right? If those three parameters are being met, I would say the growth metric is being ticked. The second is management, right? You then want to understand what is the management thinking in terms of this particular opportunity. How is it walking the talk? So that's why I think when I refer to this execution, one is to understand the vision and the mission of the management, which they're happy to discuss what they see as the opportunity, etc. But then are they being able to execute on that mission and vision consistently? Are they also a management that constantly is looking to rethink and reinvent as we go along? Because no opportunity is static, right? This is a very dynamic world we are living in. So I would say that's a subjective judgment you make. There is no such metric you would use and start giving rank out of 10.